Chapter 9 is Business Ethics and Technology. The new world of big data, experts now call this new information universe big data, which is an infinite sea of facts, products, books, maps, conversations, references, opinions, videos, literally at your fingertips 24/7 every day from now on. The term big data describes the tons of information that are out there and how businesses are striving to put it to work. This information comes from many sources than ever before, and businesses can get access to it as quickly as it is generated. For companies, the advantages of big data have been accompanied by a host of new issues, among them data security, privacy, cybercrime, which have become huge threats to and responsibilities of businesses. In the sea of big data, one of the hottest topics in technologies these days is social media. It represents the cutting edge of business communication based on technology. Social media has a dark side in which social and ethical issues arise as companies and others try to take advantage of technology. For example, many websites as well as individuals have become very leery of Facebook's tracking techniques. For companies, unfair reviews of products or services and how to respond to these pose a constant challenge. Social media frequently places more emphasis on instantaneous rather than accurate information, and this can unfairly put companies on the defensive, sometimes for reasons based on inaccurate information. The challenge of social media as a technology is to promote freedom within an ethical context of responsibility. More information is good, but only if it promotes truth-telling. Another relentless issue in the realm of ethics and technology has been the rising extent to which companies are using video camera surveillance mounted in stores to monitor customers and employee actions. We know we're being watched, but do we know how smart the technologies have become? It's CBS, Babies R Us, Macy's have used a system called Video Investigator. Much of this is for the good, but there can be possible abuses of all of it. Technology means many things to many people. In this chapter, technology will refer to the totality of the means employed to provide objects necessary for human sustenance and comfort. It has also been a scientific method used in achieving a practical purpose. The technological environment, our current topic of concern, represents the total set of technology-based advancements or progress taking place in society. In 2016, at the World Economic Forum held in Davos, Switzerland, CEOs met to discuss the sweeping changes in the world of business. And a major takeaway from this meeting was that we have entered the latest industrial revolution, one characterized by artificial intelligence, big data, robotics, and much more to come. It has increased society's productions of goods and services, and it has reduced the amount of labor needed to produce goods and services. It has made labor easier and safer, and higher standards of living have been a direct result of labor-saving technology. There are 4 categories of technology. Then they are representative of the issues we face in business today. First, there's environmental pollution. Second, there's the depletion of natural resources. And third, there is technological unemployment. The most common form of technological unemployment occurs when machines take the place of humans, and we've experienced this in the automation phase of industrial development and now in the robotic movement. Fourth, there are the creation of unsatisfying jobs due to technology, as jobs are broken down in smaller components and workers are further removed from the finished product that might provide a greater sense of fulfillment and pride. Addressing the challenges of technology, another cost or side effect of new and growing technology use has been termed digital amnesia. In a digital economy, this forgetfulness phenomenon has affected young and old, consumers and employees, as we are outsourcing our brain work to digital devices. A study by Kaspersky Labs concluded that the majority of digital consumers are no longer able to recall critical information, even for those closest to them. And they suggest that there's a direct link between the data available at the click of a button and failure to remember the information anymore. This is similar to the Google effect, which holds that just knowing that some bit of data can easily be retrieved on the internet makes us less likely to now remember it. There's an amazing amount of research now going on about the effects of communication technology on our brains, nervous system, social abilities, our relationships, mental and physical health, and family structures. To these undesirable effects, we can surely add others, but many of which are replete with ethical issues. So technology unquestionably has many benefits. Our perspective at this juncture, however, is to raise the ethical questions that might be related to business development and the use of technology and innovation. We'll focus on two key ethical issues and in the realm of technology that seem to drive everything. First is the idea of technological determinism. Technological determinism is the imperative that what can be developed will be developed. When someone once asked, "Why do you want to put men on the moon?" the answer was always, "Because we can put men on the moon." In other words, scientists and those who work with advanced technologies are driven to push back the frontiers of technological development, really without considering ethical issues, the social problems, or side effects. Now, the second important concept is that of ethical lag. An ethical lag occurs when the speed of technological change far exceeds the ethical development. As stated earlier, we always seem to be living in the condition of ethical lag, and throughout our consideration of technology and ethics, these two phenomena are evident and very influential. Information technology, or IT, is the use of computers, storage, networking, and other physical devices, infrastructure, and processes to create, process, store, secure, and exchange all forms of electronic data. And we'll discuss two broad business areas in this section: electronic commerce, or web-based marketing, and computer technology in the workplace, including telecommunications. And these areas overlap significantly, but they're interdependent. So a separate discussion of each is to lend some structure to the discussion that we will have. Electronic commerce, often referred to as e-commerce, e-business, or web-based marketing, is one of the most significant technological phenomena of our day. It primarily affects consumer stakeholders and competitors of the e-commerce firms. Most experts today are convinced that the internet has reshaped the way business is conducted around the world. Along with the growth of electronic commerce, business ethics problems have also arisen. The major category of problems for consumers is online scams. During one recent year, for example, the top frauds over the internet included fake check scams, prize sweepstakes for gifts, phishing and spoofing, advance fee loans, friendship scandals, internet auctions, scholarships, grants. Other scams have included credit card fraud, travel and vacation scams, pyramid schemes, and bogus investment opportunities. But many of the ongoing issues in e-commerce ethics includes the following: access, intellectual property, privacy and informed consent, protection of children, security of information, and trust. So the manifestation and scope of these issues differ from those of traditional businesses. Access refers to the differences in computer access between the rich and the poor. Intellectual property in e-commerce is illustrated by the ethics of downloading music or books. privacy and informed consent differ in e-commerce. An illustration is the novel ways companies place cookies on our computers without informed consent. And in addition, firms collect online information and merge it with offline information. Protection of children is an ongoing ethical issue, and it is illustrated in the issue of pornography and the dangers of children getting hooked up with sexual predators. E-commerce makes more porn more accessible than through traditional business. Security is a major issue that even today some are reluctant to do business on the web for fear their credit card numbers will be intercepted by someone not associated with that business. And last, trust is the basis for practically all business transactions, and it is especially crucial in e-commerce. Some of the most prevalent technological means by which companies invade consumers' privacy include the use of cookies and spam. Cookies are identification tags that websites drop on our personal computer hard drives so they can recognize repeat visitors the next time we visit their websites. Spam, which crowds our inboxes daily, is unsolicited commercial email and is sent through open relays to millions of people. An ongoing concern is identity theft or someone tampering with our financial information. Phishing is one of the most common and serious problems that we consumers and companies continue to be the ongoing scam, and it is an attempt to obtain financial or other confidential personal information from internet users, typically by way of an email that looks like it is from a legitimate organization or maybe a financial institution, but contains a link to a fake website that replicates the real one. Botnet scams is one of the latest techniques by which hackers get access to personal and corporate information. Bots are computers that have been compromised by unethical hackers, and a network of bots is called a botnet, and it's created by emails that get distributed by compromised computers, and they're controlled by a central computer. Botnets are not only the way of our personal information is compromised, but they represent the greatest threat to data security for businesses and governments today. So this figure 9.1 shows examples of threats to consumers' privacy posed by the internet. This is in your textbook. Social networks allow individuals to establish connections and store information remotely. Hackers or cyber criminals, phishing, online shopping fraud, banking fraud, data stealing is done through rogue application on networking sites. Facial recognition technology was used for security and surveillance, but now Facebook has deployed facial recognition software to gather data. People can now be searched for using a picture. Geotags used when photos or videos are taken with a smartphone, and those photos are embedded with a geotag revealing where your location is. These are all nice but dangerous. The federal government has gotten involved in protecting consumers' privacy, but many observers believe it's really not doing enough. The Financial Services Modernization Act of '99 was a breakthrough in legislation. It permitted banks and insurers and brokers to join forces, and under the law, it's now possible for consumers to get their credit cards, checking accounts, home loans, insurance from one company. And it's convenient, and the law has empowered these companies to develop detailed profiles of their customers just by merging files, and this is sensitive data is becoming a public commodity. In February 2012, the White House issued a proposed consumer policy Bill of Rights, and this figure 9.2 in your book summarizes the provisions. And a proposed Consumer Protection Act of 2015 was still in committee at the writing of this book. So the proposed Consumer Privacy Bill of Rights would apply to personal data, and the provisions it contains are individual control, Consumers have the right to exercise control over what personal data companies collect from them and how they use it. Transparency, the consumers have the right to easily understandable and accessible information about privacy and security practices. Security, consumers have the right to secure and responsible handling of professional data. Focused collection, consumers have the right to reasonable limits on the personal data. And accountability, consumers have a right to have personal data handled by companies with appropriate measures in place to ensure that they adhere to the Consumer Privacy Bill of Rights. There are a number of different ways companies are striving to protect the privacy of their customers in electronic commerce. Ethical leadership, business needs to recognize that potential ethical issues involved in electronic commerce and be committed to treating customers and all affected stakeholders in an ethical fashion. Every principle discussed in Chapter 8 about top management leadership applies to this discussion as well. Privacy policies. Companies may take the initiative with their own carefully crafted privacy policies designed to protect customers. An example of this might be a company deciding to do more than the law requires. A company has gone to great lengths to explain its privacy policy to customers and guests is Disney. And one of the most significant advances in privacy policy has been by Microsoft. It's amended its policies so that consumers will have greater control over what the company does with the information it gathers about their online purchasing behavior. An innovative approach to protecting consumers' privacy has been the increasing use of chief privacy officers in a number of major companies like American Express, Sony, Citigroup, and other companies. These responsibilities are falling under the administration of a chief technology officer. Data security, one of the clearest ways companies can protect the information of their customers is through data security systems and practices. Yet, data breaches are also called hacks are on the rise. In 2014, there was a cyber invasion of Sony Pictures, and it was called the hack of the century. So data breaches that have occurred in recent years point out the strong need for companies, governments, and individuals to make data security a number one priority. And companies have an ethical responsibility to protect data in spite of the lack of severe penalties for failing to do so. Several questionable businesses and practices have been made possible by electronic commerce and the use of the internet. 3 business categories that are viewed as questionable may include web-based pornography, internet gambling, and web-based downloading of music, movies, books, and other copyrighted digital materials. The illegal or uncompensated downloading of music, movies, television shows, and other copyrighted works continues to be serious questionable practice because it represents theft of intellectual property. Another practice that has raised many questions is the use of technology by companies to monitor consumers as they use the company's products. An example was illustrated when an individual rented a vehicle from Acme Rent-A-Car in Connecticut, only to find out later that he was a victim of global positioning system GPS device that was planted in his minivan that he leased, and the surveillance recorded him speeding in 3 states, anywhere between 78 to 83 miles an hour. And with each violation was digitally recorded, it automatically added a $150 charge to his bill. Whereas computer-based information technology creates ethical issues for consumer stakeholders with respect to electronic commerce and web-based marketing, employee stakeholders are also significantly affected by technology in the workplace. A new emerging field of biometrics is starting to take off, especially in commercial applications, And biometrics is the use of body measurements such as eye scans, fingerprints, palm prints for determining and confirming identity. I have one on my phone that lets me in, unlocks it. Worldwide industrial robot installations began to take off in 2012, and it is estimated that number may approach doubling by 2018. Workers in escalating numbers believe that they have been losing their jobs due to the growth in the usage of robotics or robots in more and more industry. Artificial intelligence, the growing field of this area is closely aligned with robotics. It embraces AI, embraces software technologies that make a computer or robot perform equal to or better than normal human computational ability in terms of accuracy, capacity, or speed. The use of a cell phone is no longer a private matter as job pressures are tempting more and more employees to use phones while driving. Because some companies now make cell phones available to their employees, this issue really spills over into the business arena and has become a business ethics and legal topic. In most of the instances described to this point, the employer has had responsibility for the use of technology and its implications. All of these items were really related to technology. Created a potentially dangerous situation by using new technology while driving, wrongly blamed an error that employee made on a technological glitch, copied the company's software for home use, office equipment used to shop on the internet for personal reasons, technology to intrude coworkers' privacy, visited porn websites using office equipment. But beyond this, companies should carefully think about the ethical implications of their use of technology and integrate decisions designed to protect employees into their policies and practices, especially as it concerns their code of ethics or code of conduct. This slide and figure 9.3 in your book, you can look over it. 10 Commandments of Computer Ethics. It was set forth by the Computer Ethics Institute. And it would prove to be useful to employees and employers concerning the appropriateness of computer usage. The 20th century's revolution in information technology is merging with the 21st century's revolution in biotechnology. And Walter Isaacson labeled the 2000s as the biotech century. The field of biotechnology involves using biology to discover, develop, manufacture, market, and sell products and services. From a sustainability perspective, biotechnology is striving to heal, fuel, and feed the world. The field of bioethics deals with the ethical issues embedded in the commercial use of biotechnology, really especially in medicine. And then according to William Selton, who has written extensively about bioethics, the primary tool bioethicists use is proceduralism. And this involves really elaborate protocols being established that ensure that certain classical worries, such as informed consent, are not violated. So we'll talk about the realms of biotechnology, which are genetic engineering and genetically modified foods. Genetic engineering is defined as the development and application of scientific methods, procedures, and technologies that permit direct manipulation of genetic material in order to alter the hereditary traits of cells, organisms, or population. The most controversial aspect of genetic engineering involves the applications to human beings. And so two major areas that capture the public's seem to capture the public's attention today: genetic engineering, genetic science. One is stem cell research, and the second is cloning. So embryonic stem cells are the raw materials with which a human body is built. And since their isolation, stem cell research has been proliferating around the world. So as a result of stem cell research has raised a lot of ethical questions which we have grappled with for years. When does life begin? At fertilization in the womb or birth? Is a human embryo equivalent to a human child? Does an embryo have any rights? And might the destruction of an embryo be justified if it provides a cure for other patients? And so the value of stem cells is that they offer the greatest hope for developing treatments such as cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and diabetes. And so stem cells can actually be used to replace other cells in the body that are abnormal. So there's just a mixed public opinion in spite of the companies and nonprofits. They continue to push the issue. Cloning is stem cell research is well underway, and now cloning continues to be in the news. And so some scientists say human cloning is a distant project, but according to some reports, a few citizens are already lining up to freeze the DNA of their dead loved ones, including pets and racehorses. So there's a lot of debate surrounding this. First is the issue of cloning humans, and second is the issue of cloning animals and plants and using genetics to fight disease. So cloning for food is another area. An important issue is that of companies wanting to clone animals for food. And opponents of cloning animals for food come from a large number of different consumer and scientific groups, food safety, consumer unions. And so it's really an emotionally debated ethical issue. One of the most questionable applications of biotechnology is genetic testing, and it has many downside risks, especially from a legal and ethical perspective. And it's been said that someday each of us will have implanted in our bodies a DNA chip that contains all the genetic information. And there's some positives. It will help people manage their own personal health risk, help physicians predict how a patient will respond to therapy. Genetic profiling involves the use of biotechnology in identifying unique characteristics of a person's DNA for forensic and diagnostic purposes. So it provides a perfect means for identifying a person and raises questions of privacy and possible discrimination on genetic factors. In 2008, President Bush signed into law the Genetic Information Discrimination Act, and it was intended to protect Americans against discrimination based on their genetic information when it comes to health insurance and employment. Its implementation has been taking effect for several years now. Another highly debated category of biotechnology that carries important, really more frequent ethical implications and debates for business is that of genetically modified foods, or GMFs, more frequently referred to as genetically modified organizations, GMOs. And GMOs are plants or animals created through the gene splicing techniques of biotechnology, also called genetic engineering. Extreme critics of GMOs call them frankenfoods, calling attention to the parallels with the mythical character Frankenstein. Opponents point to possible health risks not yet identified, environmental risk, and maybe risks to farmers of organic products. Labeling of GMOs. Since the safety of GMOs does not seem to be in question by scientific research, the more urgent issue has become the question of whether foods that contain GMOs should be labeled or not when they are sold in grocery stores or served elsewhere. Many consumer activists think that at a minimum, foods that contain genetically modified ingredients should be labeled as such. The Consumer Federation of American Foundation, for example, issued a report recommending mandatory labeling and other ways to improve biotech food regulations. And to date, the FDA has not mandated the labeling of GMOs, but has issued a position statement regarding voluntary labeling. The Non-GMO Project is a nonprofit collaboration of manufacturers, retailers, processors, distributors, farmers, seed companies, and consumers. And This project's shared belief is that everyone deserves an informed choice about whether or not to consume genetically modified products, and our common mission is to ensure the sustained availability of non-GMO choices. And this concludes Chapter 9, Business Ethics and Technology.